welcome back. Today I've got a first impressions video for you. I was in Clicks the other day and I bought a few things that I did not need, but they caught my attention and I thought that maybe I should do a little video on them. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. Today's first impressions is going to be on drugstore primers, and the first one that I laid eyes on in Clicks was this Rimmel Fix and Protect SPF 25 Makeup Primer. I had seen this, I think, on Fleur's channel, and then incidentally after I bought it I saw it in a Sharon Farrell video, and it's supposed to be anti-pollution, anti-stress, protective shield and skin perfecting. So basically I'm going to wear it on one half of my face today with a base on top that I know how it performs. I'm going to be using, where is it? The Bourjois 123 Perfect CC Cream, and I'm going to wear it on one half of my face and we'll see how it compares throughout the day. And the other two drugstore primers I have here are actually eyeshadow primers, so I'm going to use one on each eye. This is from Wet n Wild and it is called their Photo Focus Eyeshadow Primer. And the other one I got is from LA Girl. This I got actually from Discam, and this is the Pro Primer HD High Definition Eyeshadow Primer. This is more of a stick as opposed to the Wet n Wild one, which I assume is more like a cream, kind of like the Urban Decay one. But I've never used this kind of eyeshadow primer before, so that's going to be really interesting. I have got SPF on my face already, so if it's looking a tiny bit shiny, that's why. It's not actually greasy at all. It's the Body Shop one. It's really, really nice. It's not greasy at all, it just looks a little bit shiny until you put your makeup on top. So let's do one half of my face with this one. This Rimmel makeup primer comes out white, just like an SPF. That might be too much for one half of my face, but then obviously blends away. And when I tried the test on the back of my hand, I noticed that it dried down really nicely, which is what made me think it actually would be really good despite the high SPF, which is obviously a huge bonus if you aren't wearing a separate SPF. Okay, so it is blending away very easily. I'm not getting much of a white cast, and it's not pilling, which is great. Oftentimes with primers, pilling is just a real pain. As soon as you start putting it on your skin, it starts coming away on your fingers in little flakes. It's really annoying. Okay. It feels silicone-y for sure, but not in that super mattifying way. Not like the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte, whatever it's called, primer that I use a lot in my T-zone. That's a really good one, but that's much more like that sort of clear silicone-y. This is silicone-y but in a creamy way. I don't know if that makes sense. It's definitely still a little bit wet at the moment, but I'm going to wait and see if it does dry down. I'm not sure that it's doing much in terms of skin perfecting because the texture is quite light and it's not that very thick silicone texture. I'm not finding that it's filling anything in, so you can still see the texture of my pores and fine lines, although to be honest I never really rely on primers to do that unless I'm using a targeted treatment like over my pores, like something like the Benefit Professional, which does have a much thicker texture and by its nature will fill in pores like that. So skin perfecting I'm not really sure, but it is a little bit smoothing, I'll give it that. Okay, it's been about a minute now and it has dried down. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily matte, but it feels like normal skin. It doesn't feel slippy or greasy or anything like that. And it's completely disappeared, which is great. I'm not left with a white cast and it feels very promising. Next I'm going to go in with the Wet n Wild eyeshadow primer. Let's see, it comes in a little tube like this. Let's see what the texture's like. I didn't try a tester of this in the shop, I just picked it up. Okay, so it's kind of a flesh tone, in fact very similar looking to the Urban Decay one. Let's put this on my eye and see how it goes. Also got a silicone texture again, not in that thick slippy way, but you can just tell that it's got silicone in it. That feels identical to the Urban Decay one. I wouldn't know the difference if you put it in the Urban Decay tube for sure. Setting quite quickly, definitely drying down. Okay, let's try the LA Girl one, if I can get it out of its packaging. Okay, there we go. This is quite weird. I really don't know what to expect from this one, but let's see. It's hard also to know how much to use. Whew, goes on white. Let's see if it's got any pigment or if that's just a temporary thing. Okay, it's obviously much drier, but I mean you would expect that from a stick. It's quite blendable, so I don't think that's an issue. I'm not particularly dragging my eyelids. Because it's drier, it's setting much quicker. and not quite as tacky as the other one. It actually feels really nice, feels very smooth. It definitely leaves a little bit of white behind. I don't know if you can tell, but when I look in the mirror I can absolutely see that the skin on this side is much paler now because of the pigment in that product. For that reason, I don't think it would be very good for dark skin tones unless you were covering the entire area with eyeshadow as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my 123 Perfect CC cream and see if I can detect any difference in application on the side of my face with the primer and the side of my face without. Using a Real Technique sculpting brush. Let's have a look. Okay, I wouldn't say that it's applying any differently, but I do think that the skin on this side of my face that has the primer, it does look a little bit smoother. It's not super obvious, but if I look quite closely, I can see that, for example, my pores on this side of my face are that little bit less prominent. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to do the rest of my face makeup and then we'll come back and I'll show you how the eyeshadow applies. Okay, I finished my face makeup and now I'm going to go onto the eyes and we'll see how this primer performs with eyeshadow. I'm just going to do a kind of single wash of colour all over the lid, and this is Wet n Wild, the shade Nutty. This is amazing, it's super cheap, it's such a good eyeshadow, really good for every day. So I'm going to start on my right eye, which is the one that has the Wet n Wild primer. Certainly applies very smoothly. I'm not noticing any grabbing. It's not going patchy at all. It's doing what a primer should do, which is allow the shadow to go on very evenly. And really what I'm looking for throughout the day is, my main thing is the shadow mustn't crease. I have such oily eyelids, I can't get away with wearing shadow without a primer. So the main thing I need is for the primer to make sure that the shadow doesn't crease and go all gross and start disappearing and melting off my eyes. The other thing is to see if it amplifies the pigment. I wouldn't say this one does that. It tends to be the very sticky bases that tend to amplify pigment because they kind of wet the colour actually. But this one is going on true to colour, which is absolutely fine with me. Yeah, looks really smooth and amazing. Let's do the other eye. The application is almost identical. I can't actually see a difference. There again, there isn't any amplification of the pigment in terms of making the colour any deeper, but it also went on really smoothly, didn't catch, isn't going patchy. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And again, the real proof in the pudding will be if either of these eyes creases. But so far so good. Okay, I've added mascara and lipstick, so now I'm all ready to roll. It is 10 to 12 and I'm actually heading to the Winelands now to go and have lunch. So all going well. I'll do a check-in when I'm there. Whether or not I can do a check-in when I get back depends kind of on the time. I don't use artificial lighting, so I can only really shoot when the sun is up. If we get back late, I'll do another update for you tomorrow, but I will certainly keep a close eye on it. And I am going to the Winelands. We might have a repeat of the last first impressions I did, which ended rather abruptly, shall we say, due to maybe one too many glasses of wine. So I will check in with you a little bit later, otherwise I'll see you tomorrow. So my primer and stuff's been on for 3 or 4 hours. Basically I can see no real difference in performance from the side of my face that's got the primer on, the side that doesn't. I think it's actually pretty even. It's not too much of a hot day, so not too oily and sweaty today, so I don't know how it would necessarily perform in those conditions. So I don't really have much to report there. In terms of the eyeshadow, I don't know if you can see, but this eye, which has the LA Girl primer on, is creasing really badly. Like, my eyeshadow's completely disappeared. Whereas on this side, which is the Wet n Wild primer, it looks perfect. So yeah, so far so good. I think the Wet n Wild is the winner. Like I said, if I get home before the sun goes down, I will do another check-in. I do think the Wet n Wild primer might be an absolute winner and a really good bargain alternative to the Urban Decay one. Hello, I'm back. So had a delicious lunch at Bread and Wine at Morrison in Franschhoek. If you ever get the chance to go, yum. Managed not to get completely smashed, so I'm only a tiny bit drunk and I'm sure I can finish this video. I'm teasing, I'm actually really not drunk. Okay, so first up, the face primer. I have to say, I didn't notice any difference whatsoever. The left side of my face, which is the one I didn't have any primer on, looks exactly the same as the right hand side of my face. Now, it is possible that the SPF I use, which is the Body Shop Skin Defense, maybe has sort of acted as a primer, although that isn't what it's designed for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this Rimmel primer again in the week without the SPF underneath and see how it goes. Again, I'll do half my face and see if there's anything comparable, but I'm not any more shiny on the non-prime side than I am on the prime side. I haven't noticed any more or less wear, so kind of inconclusive. I think I will kind of do a retest in the week. I will leave any thoughts below if anything changes, but otherwise that was a bit of a meh. I mean, I honestly wouldn't rush out and buy it. I don't really see the point. There are other primers. In fact, like I said earlier, the L'Oreal Infallible mattifying primer is really, really good, and that's obviously also a drugstore alternative to something more expensive like the Professional. So I would try something like that rather. The eye primers were actually very interesting. As I said in my earlier check-in, I noticed when I looked at my eyes after a couple of hours that this eye, which is the one that had the LA Girl Pro primer on it, had creased completely. And I probably won't be able to do a good close-up of this, but if I look in the mirror, it's done that thing where there's absolutely no eyeshadow left on the main part of my eyelid. There's just a whole lot of it bunched up in the crease and then a little bit out of my brow bone. So as far as I'm concerned, that's a complete fail. On the other hand, this primer, which is the Wet n Wild one, on this eye has done a stellar job. It's performed very similar to the Urban Decay Primer Potion. I think it's probably not as bulletproof as the Urban Decay one, but it's pretty close, and for a product that is a fraction of the price, I think that's a really, really good buy. So of the things I tested today, I would say that that is the winner, and I would really recommend it. I think it's really, really good. The other one I would recommend is from NYX, and it's the NYX High Definition Eyeshadow Base, which looks like this. This is a very, very similar product, so if you ever see that in clicks, pick that up as well, because it's a really, really good eyeshadow primer. Okay, that's it. If there's anything you'd like me to test in one of these first impression style videos, please let me know, just leave a comment. Otherwise, please subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time. Bye! What I will say is these don't dry down properly matte. They're more like a satin finish, but what I like about that is that it means they're creamier, so they don't dry your lips out and make you have that really shrink wrapped lip thing, which I actually just hate.